Friday.
Oh, Alexa, volume off.
Oh, it says live.
Did you get Alexa?
We are live. Okay. Cool. We're now live, it says. So welcome everybody. And I don't have a clue who is watching us. So great if you are watching us. That would be lovely. Let me introduce everybody. For those that don't know, I'm going to start in the obvious way. My lovely co-host next to me, there you go, right? I was going to say right or left. I can't, left.
Hello,
left.
how are you today, Jane?
Hi, we're in the room next door, Mal.
Yes, that's right.
So we're going to be coming to you every Friday for a good chit chat with lovely industry people who have been active on our Agency to Help page and talking about what's happening basically in the market. So our guests this week, we've got a right motley crew today. What can I say? So on my other side, because whichever side Mal isn't on, we have Joe Fanthorpe, who is representing Grisdales, who are a three-branch agency in Cockermouth, Cumbria, Whitehaven, that area. So up north, basically. And for those that know me, might recognise Joe, because Joe worked with me for a year in his gap year, and he now works for Property Academy and also does Bright Ideas Digital, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Underneath Joe, it's a little bit like the Brady Bunch, isn't it? And it's the Bradley Bunch. So underneath, in black and white, this lady here is Deb Franklin from Bradley, representing Bradley & Co today. Deb has been helping us on Agency to Help right from the start. So thank you very much. And she's having trouble with her lighting. So if you can't see her, she is there.
She is there. She is. You'll hear her. You'll be able to hear.
Underneath me, where my body turns into, whoosh, down here, is the lovely Kristjan Byfield. For those who have been on this platform will know Kristjan's been amazing, telling us all things that have been going on. And Kristjan is representing his agency-based property specialists. And you're in Shoreditch, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Shoreditch.
You never guess, because I don't look like a Shoreditch agent.
It's a very friendly place. I just remember there was lots of street art when we came to visit you. So it was
and beards, a lot of beards.
A lot of hair there.
A lot of hair, which is good. And last but not least is the absolutely amazing Maxine Lester from St Ives in Cambridgeshire, who is Maxine Lester Residential Lettings.
Amazing part of the world.
So,
hi.
And Max, you are in the same building as Mel, aren't you, or near enough?
Essentially, we can just about see each other if you look out the window when we turn away from you.
We're just there.
So there we go. So Mel, over to you. You can talk about what our subject is today.
Brilliant, and thanks, Jane. So look, I'm really excited to start to look a bit more in detail about what the impact of the coronavirus pandemic has been for people moving house. So we're going to start with some guidance, and then we're going to chat with the team here. So it started for England on the 13th of May, the ability to actually move house again. Just about see each other if you look out the window. When we turn away from you.
We're just there.
Sorry guys, what's happened?
So Mel, over to you. You can talk about what
Okay, so on the 30th of May in England, people started to be able to move house again. That was the 29th of June in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. So that was last Monday, 2 days ago. The big thing, the overriding thing, obviously, is safety, right? You've got to try and make sure you're doing social distancing. What that means is 1 metre plus in England. So you've always got to try and make sure you're that distance away from everybody, wherever you are. People have got to disinfect their houses. So people have got to try and make sure that there isn't anything around that people are going to touch or catch that has any of the virus on it. Your flexibility, if you are shielding, if you have any symptoms, self-isolating, all that sort of stuff, obviously don't move house. Don't get anybody involved, don't get anybody around. That's the law. And then there's a lot about the flexibility side of things with mortgage companies, with conveyancers and so on. So what I'm really interested in, and what I think the viewers are going to be really interested in, is what that's meant from a practical perspective for you guys out there on the ground. So, you know, I wonder from your perspective, Debs, out over Clifton Way near Bristol, How have you found any differences? I think you particularly with the student market, right? Particularly just about now.
Yeah, what we found is that student-wise, where people are moving out, those people were actually with the students. A lot of them were under lockdown, had gone perhaps home to parents. So we found that not all of them have been able to come back at the end of their tenancy agreement to clear out. So the rest of them, those that have, are responsible for clearing out and making sure all the keys come back. And then we're leaving a period of time, we're gaining professional cleaners in, leaving a period of time before new tenants are able to move in. When the keys come back in, we're having to disinfect all the keys.
Oh, yeah.
So they all get disinfected, put in a sealed bag, ready for the next lot of tenants to go, so that they, you know, that's something you didn't have to do before, really. So it was, you know, so those are then kept there for the next tenants to move in.
Okay.
And what we have found is that some of the tenants that are due to move in to sign and would be moving in from 1st of July or, you know, middle of July or something, they're actually, although the tenancies are starting, some of them are delaying their actual return to maybe August or even September. So they're not actually even coming to put their things into the properties. You might have one out of a group of 5, for example, that is, but the rest of them aren't.
Is that unusual? So under normal circumstances, they would all kind of pile in on the 1st of July. And just
you would usually have them all piling in, moving everything in, the parents going off to IKEA to buy everything else that they needed, and putting it all in.
Make sure there's cornflakes in the cupboard.
Yeah, that's not happening. So what we have been lucky, some tenants haven't completed their or not staying on for their course this year. They're deferring for a year. We've been lucky that we haven't had anybody doing that on our student properties, but I'm aware that it is happening on some of the others in Bristol.
Wow. And Kristjan, what about in London? Is there differences there? Have you seen anything particularly notable that's changed?
I mean, obviously taking some of the precautions Deb's highlighted. I mean, I think for us, it's just, you know, our process of dealing with anyone inquiring about a property is just to limit access to a property as much as possible. So, you know, if it's a joint tenancy, can one tenant come and we FaceTime their flatmates? You know, so at least they've got their flatmate to talk to there, but do we really need 3 or 4 flatmates attending at the same viewing? You know, obviously we try to avoid that wherever possible. I know, you know, talking to some other agents, you know, they've had people book viewings and go, oh, you know, and my friend Sally's going to come on the viewing as well because we like her to see the property. They're like, no, Sally's not moving into the property. You can FaceTime Sally, you know, but so I know, I've seen stories with some agents getting a bit of stick from people in the marketplace, you know, keen to sort of conduct themselves the way they did before. And I think the tricky thing for us as agents is we are having to be the gatekeepers here, right? We're responsible. If the property's tenanted, we're responsible for the tenants and everyone they're in contact with. We're responsible for our colleagues and everyone they're in contact with. And we're responsible for everyone who comes on the viewing and everyone they come into contact with. So, you know, really we're the gatekeepers to keep all of those people safe.
That's like
and so
cat.
I think maybe not quite that bad, but not far off. I think people are so used to agents desperately trying to cram them through the door of a property that consumers are finding it a little bit strange that a lot of agents are now sort of almost behaving in the opposite way.
Stay away.
Sales or rentals. I know with sales, people are being, you know, really a lot of agents are being extra rigorous now about, you know, are you in a position to buy? And for many, that means not only is your property on the market, but are you receiving offers or have you got an offer sort of ready to go? And so I know that, you know, we're already starting to see a bit of tricky consumer behavior where we've now got people who've been turned down on a couple of properties because they're not in a suitable position. So once they get a couple of knocks like that, the next agent they talk to, they go, oh yeah, my property's on the market and it's under offer. So, you know, I think for consumers, you know, for the consumers out there watching this, I know it's frustrating. I know it must feel really frustrating to see this property that you really want to go and see, whether you want to buy it or rent it, and you feel like agents are putting all these hurdles in the way to stop you viewing the property. Trust in good faith that there is nothing we want more than to get you into that property and to sell or rent that property to you. That is still our, that is how we earn our keep. That is how we keep the wolves from the door and pay our staff and keep our clients happy. And that is absolutely what we still want to do. None of us are creating these hurdles to be awkward. We're doing this because we are responsible for so many people. And we need to be careful. So I think that's the thing that I'm finding at the moment is that slight battle of sort of consumer weariness. Like, people are just really keen to get out. A lot of people are still stuck at home, so getting out to see properties almost like a day out. Apart from anything else,
come and see the sights.
Yeah, exactly. Go and see it. I mean, we've already had multiple people go, "Oh, I'm not looking to move for a few months, but I'm stuck at home. Can you take me to the property to get a feel for the market?"
At different four walls. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen,
I think
Maxine,
one of the things for us as a managing agent has actually been a lot about just dialogue with our current tenants, just reassuring them that when it comes to remarketing, that we will be bringing as fewer people as possible through the door, that we will be making extra steps to coordinate the viewings with them, and that we recommend that, like, as you touched on before, they clean the property before we arrive, they leave the property whilst we do the viewings. We will always ask people coming to bring a mask, to bring gloves. We always bring our own gloves extra, and where we can, extra masks as well. Because it is amazing. I'd say half of the people we have turn up for viewings at the moment say they'll bring a mask and gloves and turn up with nothing, which is frustrating. But we're being the gatekeepers. So it's just trying to find that balance for all of us of keeping the public safe, doing what's right by everyone, and yet still trying to run a business and do some deals.
Got it. And Maxine, have you found that people don't move or aren't interested in moving as much as they were perhaps this time last year? Has it actually put people off, all of this kind of additional confusion, or is it pretty much the same? Is Maxine there? Hello, Maxine.
Maxine, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself, darling.
The host muted me. Right, can you hear me? So it's actually very difficult to tell, because you had 3 months of absolute pent up need to move, those people that had wanted to go. So come the 15th, it went potty, which was great. And then what we had to do was really sort out the people who were interested to the people really kicking the can. As Kristjan said, there were a lot of people who just said, I've been looking at 4 walls, I just want to go and see some others. So I think the one thing that we changed was actually more in-depth conversation with applicants as they were looking. And I think that's really where it comes into the consumer was and is still getting a little bit annoyed, because we're taking more steps to make sure our people are safe, the tenant in place is safe, and they're safe. I mean, we took the decision right from day one that, the way you will be looked on coming out of this crisis is not by your market share, it's by how you've conducted yourself. So absolutely, we took the thing that our people are more important than anything. And Kristjan's absolutely right. People do turn up without PPE. We tell them this is gonna, you will not go in, and we're absolutely to the line. They won't go in, and they get pissed. But it's like, well, we did tell you. And I think it's just sort of like, no, this is the situation. This is what we've got to do to move things forward.
So actually, those people are potentially missing out on their houses just by, or where they want to go to, just by not following very basic and perhaps what you would expect now to be natural. You need to wear a face mask.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose in some respects, it sort of highlights those people that you actually want to work with, because obviously when you're weighing a prospective tenant up for a landlord, there is a bit of tummy in the sense of like, will I be able to work with you in the future, or are you going to be
It's an extra
difficult.
filtering process.
Yeah,
filtering
it's sort of like, so if you want to do it that way, fine, you've just unticked yourself in the box. So
Yeah, I love it.
it's helpful. I mean, the thing is that as at all agents, I mean, the number of applicants that we have applying will only get deals out of 10%. So there's a lot of people that say they're looking, but actually don't really end up going through the process. So again, that whittling down is really important.
And have you found that there are different reasons why people aren't going through now as a result of Corona, or is it just pretty much the same sort of percentage with the same sort of reasons?
It's basically the same sort of percentage. I mean, it's difficult to compare year on year because this time last year we had the tenant fee ban. So if we look at what was going on in June last year, well, that's ridiculous. So having a look at June the year before, there's more people looking, but then it's too far away for a comparison. So again, it's difficult to say, you know, we know it's busy, but you know, if we say, oh, compared with June last year, we're not hearing from as many people. Well, that was because of what was happening in the market then, not now.
Got it. And Joe, up in the Lake District and with Grisdales, are you finding that you're using technology differently? I know that obviously you're kind of from Bright Media as well. Are you changing the way that you actually advertise these properties out there?
Yes, so Grisdale's contacted me to create and offer a new service to provide virtual viewings through Zoom. So the way they wanted to do this is there has been a lot of pent-up demand and people have been really interested in property since the market's reopened. However, a way of making sure that people that are taking up the physical viewing opportunities, they have to do a virtual viewing first. So we launched the property onto the market with a virtual viewing, and you have to have seen this. So we launch it as an event, but what's really good about the video is that it can then be seen. It's shown live, but if you don't watch it live, you can then see the recording. So you have to see this recording first before you take a physical viewing, and this ensures that we're not wasting people's time, and it ensures that the safety is kept up as well.
Got it. So are you able to
I've watched one of Grisdale's viewings, and I have to say they're probably one of the best that I've seen, because you've got a really good booking in system. So you book in, you then have a record of everybody that's registered, you see who's watched it. And the one thing with Grisdale's is their social media platforms are very, very busy. They have, I don't know whether it's a north-south divide, but you know, up north we tend to find that social media is incredibly busy for property.
people chattier up there? Is that what you're saying?
I just think maybe they just like to use it more. I don't know. I genuinely, we've looked at it a lot, and I can't tell you why, but you know, they do. They interact incredibly well for property up certainly with Grisdale's, and so launching it as an event on Facebook or, you know, on the Zoom and showcasing it that way, it seems to be working incredibly well. Certainly from talking to Rachel, who owns Grisdale's, she's seems to be saying it's really good. So I'm quite curious to know how come some agencies I talk to don't even realise that they're supposed to do video viewings if they can first. Yeah. Wow. I mean, literally, I obviously in my capacity, I speak to a lot of people, and some of them don't realise that that's what they're supposed to be doing, and they've just literally gone back to same old physical viewings. And I'm just a little bit gobsmacked as to how
crazy. And yeah, whether they've noticed that there is this pandemic going on. And has anybody else found that they're speaking to tenants who have gone through this without the same precautions that you guys are taking?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first viewings that I actually carried out after, because one of the things that we're doing is we are doing the video, we're uploading videos, you know, sort of static videos to the website. Had a little bit of problem with some properties that came back on because the tenants have given notice. So obviously they're still in there, and to try and do a video, a nice video has been a bit
What
of a
have you
challenge.
seen? What have you seen?
But one of the things that we did get to do is we got the tenants to give us the video, and some of them give us some good virtual walk rounds, which was really good. The ones where we had the socks over the radiator and wasn't so good, I didn't want those on our website, but what we did is when we got the inquiries, we sent the video through via email with a link, so that people had to see that video first before we would then carry out any physical one. So, and then we would only show a maximum of 2 people round, definitely not anymore. And then the first one I did with 3 people was, the third one was on FaceTime, the same as Kristjan said. But actually the amount of people that said to me, because I would turn up with my mask, my gloves, and they'd always have them as well. And they said quite a few other agents hadn't asked them at all about that.
Really?
Wow. I think actually it's got better now, because people are expecting to be asked, you know, and sort of know about it. And we take spares just in case, sort of thing. But we're really encouraging everybody else, because otherwise it'll run down our stocks. But you know, more and more people are getting.
So socks on radiators is the worst that you've seen from these self-delivered ones. Anybody else got any advance on that? Have we seen some pretty terrible
It was not so
sights,
much terrible, it was just lovely. We had a close-up of a toothbrush, which then panned out to an open toilet. And it was like, oh, lovely.
we had a close-up of something that at first looked like a toothbrush, and I'll leave it there.
Whoa, no.
It buzzed like one.
Oh.
What? That's taking my brain worse somewhere.
On a video they sent you.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Almost. It was like an opening shot. Almost that was like a key feature.
They do that on purpose, though. I mean, I think that we've all, you know, all of us that have worked in the lettings agents in a lettings capacity will know that obviously a tenant that's leaving a property, they really look, and totally understand it. It's not their responsibility really to have that place tidied up for people to come around, and you get the lovely ones that of course will live in nice, you know, in a nice tidy place. But unfortunately, if you've got student accommodation, you've got a lot of people living there, you know, there's probably 1 or 2 that will tidy up and then the others don't. So it would be lovely, but landlords,
I think it depends a bit on your relationship, doesn't it? I think there was a great video. I say great, wouldn't have been great for the landlord and agent involved, but there was a video on Facebook, I think about a month ago, from a tenant in Scotland who was moving out of his flat because the landlord hadn't fixed loads of stuff in the flat. And then the landlord had asked him to shoot a marketing video of that.
Okay.
And so the tenant had put up like little signs everywhere about everything that was wrong with the flats, and then proceeded to walk around.
And to be honest, you know, that's, you know, that
well, you reap what you sow, right? I think that the audacity of that landlord to have a tenant leave because they weren't fixing stuff and then task them to film a promotional video.
So tenants watching out there, it's it's an opportunity, right? Do you think the landlords have actually upped their game as a result of this, or is this something that is just going to happen regardless?
Well, the agents have upped their game. I wouldn't say landlords. I mean, we've done it on behalf of the landlord, really, because we want to make sure we can still sell a property, rent a property out. So I think the sort of like using the different technology, using, as Kristjan said, you've got to have a relationship with the tenant to actually ask them and sort of get them to do that. But sometimes we have had to explain, this is how you do it. And we did that with the toothbrush didn't work. So hey ho, some people listen. But I think it's more a case, you know, it's the new normal. And actually where, you know, I'd been thinking about doing 360 videos for a long time. And it was like, okay, I'm not going to think about it anymore. We're going to do it. And it actually, you picked up quite a bit of tech very, very quickly.
Right. And was it really was it kind of hard to learn, or had it become on so far that it was relatively straightforward, even if you couldn't have somebody showing it you in front of you?
For me, it was very difficult, but then I'm a technophobe. So it's like, I don't understand it. But no, right now I can do it. That's absolutely fine. So,
I think probably the most frustrating thing for us as agents with things like the virtual tours is still the lack of proper adoption by the major property portals.
Okay.
We've still got all the big boys. If you've got a virtual tour, most of them at best, it's quite a discreet link somewhere at the bottom of the page rather than a very front and center tab alongside photos and floor plan. So I think at the moment, a lot of us as agents are having to work really, really hard to put these in front of our applicants,
I think it's a very good opportunity though for agents to get traffic to their own websites as opposed to or to their Facebook pages or
absolutely
Google pages. Right. And actually, they're missing a trick. Rightmove, Zoopla, because the market is moving towards the social side and coming away from the portals bit by bit by bit. And if they don't keep up with the stuff that's happening, then it will take up, it will eventually take over. I'm sure it is still years off, but this whole COVID situation has sped things up incredibly with regards to social media marketing. I think that is something that they really need to pull their finger out about. Otherwise, people will just start going, well, don't look at Rightmove, look at the agent's Facebook pages, or look at put it on Google and see what's on Google, because if anyone's got a good Google My Business page, they'll have their videos on there, on their YouTube.
And that's where the traffic's going, is it, Jane? So it's actually people are starting to look for property on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, right?
We've seen a huge increase. Since, and actually it was quite funny how most agents adopted it more, so thought, right, okay, where's everybody? While everybody's at lockdown, what are they doing all day long? They're sitting on Facebook, or they're online. They're not at work anymore. So you've actually got a far more captive audience that you've ever had before. Let's step up our and the same really, what we've been doing here with regards to being on Facebook and on the social media platforms. And those that adopted it, I think, have come out on top, because there was others that went, oh, how can we cut all our costs during this time? And don't get me wrong, I know that, obviously we had to pare things down, but to cut your digital marketing at a time when your whole audience and every single person that you're possibly going to deal with is sitting at home looking online just seems like the most ridiculous decision I've ever come across. Really? So I think that, those that took up the opportunity and started doing a lot more on their Facebook pages or their social media pages and the Google My Business pages, because they've really stepped up on Google.
And have you found that kind of consumers, so for consumers watching this, obviously what we're doing here with Agents Here to Help, and everybody here has really kind of jumped on board with that. It's about kind of thinking about how we can help the consumers to navigate through this period and future periods. Do you think that consumers now should go onto other places and have a look at?
I think they are going. I think they are, and I think the thing is, people will be on their social media, and now they'll put a hashtag in of agents in their town, and they'll get all the agents that are bothering to be there in their town that are doing stuff. And I just think that it's only going to get more and more, and especially the younger generation. I think that Rightmove is a great, and I've never had a problem with Rightmove. It's a great platform that you have, everything in one place, or Zoopla or whatever, where you don't have to, I think going back to us old agents who used to have to dot screen photographs and dot them on and photocopy them and all the rest of it, it was just lovely that you could just press a button.
You're not that old, Jane.
I think one thing for consumers to take away from this all is that I think, a lot of consumers prior to this would still be frustrated with that agent who would have photos taken on their mobile, no floor plan, no video, no virtual tour. And I think, as we've touched on, this has driven a lot of fence hoppers that, that is not an option anymore. They've got to have good quality photos. They've got to have floor plans. Really, they need to have at least a video or a virtual tour, if not both. So I think, for the consumers watching this, expect more from your agent, whether it's an agent marketing your property or whether it's an agent you want to go and see your property. Expect more from them. If your agent's not doing good quality photos, a floor plan, and at least a video or a virtual tour. You know, as we've already touched on in this, really, they're not fulfilling the government requirements of how they should be marketing your property right now.
And do you think that from a tenant or from a buyer perspective, that actually that should send warning bells that this property is probably not one you want to go around and see anymore?
Look, I think that would be a sweeping statement to say that. I think, you know, you could have a fantastic property with a lazy agent, and I'm sorry, but that's what they would be. But I don't think it necessarily. And look, when you're a tenant or a buyer looking, if that property ticks the boxes that you need it to tick, or you think it does, sometimes you're not left with a choice. But to sort of roll the dice and go and have a look. But, you know, if I was out looking at property now, I wouldn't be going to physically see anything that I wasn't able to get an 80% understanding exactly what that property was like.
Right.
You know, I still think no matter how good your marketing is, I think there's always going to be that 10 to 20%, which is emotive, etc., and you're not going to get across the line without that final physical viewing. That's not always true. I mean, we've always done a handful of deals every year with people moving from abroad, you know, who are just happy to trust what they see and sign a contract without ever physically seeing the property. But I think for most people, they would want at least one person, if it's a tenancy, at least one of the tenants to go and physically see the property in person. But yeah, I think, you know, just from a consumer perspective, just demand more from your agent. Even if you do find the property listing on Rightmove or Zoopla and the photos are bad, you know, or basic, do you contact that agent and do ask what more they had? They might have it and they might not be using it in their marketing. But, you know, I think as a consumer, you know, at the end of the day, you want to protect yourself. You don't want to be going out, and I know we've talked about this already. I know a lot of people are desperate to get out of their house and just go and do something, anything that isn't stuck inside their home.
I love
you know,
the idea of sightseeing tours of different properties.
Yeah, and you know, you have a duty of care to yourself as well as everyone else. So, yeah, make sure that, you know, the property, it's going to be worth your time, effort, and risk.
Great consumer tips. So, Maxine, think about what's been happening around with you. What would you say is kind of the top recommendation you've got in the current climate, mindful of time, about what they should be doing, what they should be looking out for?
I think, so Kristjan, it's been very much. We know that if someone sees a house that they like, it doesn't matter about the agent. So it really is a case, just demand more and expect more. There is the tech out there to make sure it can be done. And all right, as agents, you have to spend more time sorting it out. But if you're taking that care over it, you're actually putting more effort. You can see the effort that's put in there.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I think it really is, again, the landlords, isn't it? You know, your landlords and your vendors, you know, they should be looking at what their agents are doing a lot more carefully rather than just saying, oh, what fee do you charge? Oh, right, okay, that's fine, without actually knowing what that fee is for. And this is what you always get, you know, the amount of times that people go, oh, you know, it's all about the fee. And I think that landlords and vendors out there need to not be so focused on that. They need to be more focused on what they're actually getting for the money they're paying, because, you know, you can pay a cheap fee and get a really good service, or you could pay a cheap fee and get an absolutely shocking service. So I think more about the service than the money. I appreciate money is important, but if you've got a good service, the chances are you're probably going to sell or rent your house for more, and you're going to get a lot more out of it. So actually,
also with what you're saying, Jane, is bang on the money as well. And I think even more so in lettings, because lettings now, you've got the array of compliance changes that have happened in the last decade and show no sign of changing. So for all of us letting agents on here, we know, you know, the value an agent gets today from a letter managed service versus what they got 10, 12 years ago is staggering. The amount of compliance and regulation and due diligence you will get from a good lettings and management company is light years away from what it was 10, 12 years ago. And so you add on top of that now the culpability of you as a landlord. Again, you are responsible for the health and safety of your tenants living in your property. You are responsible for the people who go in and view that property. So if you're going to take that on yourself, you better be making damn sure that you are following these government guidelines, because we're going to start seeing cases of people contracting viruses from unsafe conditions and starting to pursue that in a legal environment. And that is going to be serious. It's going to be big lawsuits, big money. And for the sake of saving a couple of quid here or there, is that really the responsibility, liability, and risk that you want to take? Is that really something that you want to be, questioning yourself about? I mean, even forget the money. Do you want to, how would you feel if you found out because you were a bit reckless and a bit slapdash about something that someone you dealt with, contracted the virus? So I think, agents have been increasingly better value, but, this again is just yet another reason why, any landlord who's not using a quality lettings and management company right now, you seriously need to sit down and think about what risks and liability you're taking on yourself and what value you get out of using a quality agent to do that for you nowadays.
I couldn't agree more. Joe, what about you up in up there? Have you seen anything that you kind of recommend most to consumers and that they should deal with differently now in the current climate?
I just think if you are interested in a property, make sure you try and discover as many virtual options first, and then once you know you have that interest, then go forward with the physical viewings. So just make sure you're really interested in property before you proceed.
So there's a whole kind of efficiency side of things that perhaps that has come out of this that might be of benefit to people who used to just trek around, right?
So we saw the virtual viewings were definitely something that were coming into the market prior to COVID-19, and now it's caused agents to just accelerate forward with the technology, and agents are coming on board with it. And I think you need to utilize that as a consumer and make the most of it.
Yeah, brilliant. And Deb, what about you down in Bristol? There's the student market or the other professional side of the market, has that changed at all? Or what would you recommend to people looking down there?
I think actually what we're seeing is, as a consequence of lockdown, you're seeing more people looking for the outside space. And quite often landlords and their own properties that have outside space don't make it look its best. But actually it's gone way up the list of either a balcony, a patio, garden, that type of thing. And also bike storage is a big thing now, because everybody's been cycling or bought new bikes. And one of the things we're finding, that's great with a lot of the more modern properties, but we do have a bit of a problem because in Bristol you've got a lot of older type of accommodation, big houses converted into flats. So it's really the landlords maybe speaking to their management companies and thinking about where can they put some storage, because it's all going to be things that could make a difference between your property going and the property that hasn't got it, and yours having it. So as landlords, you've got to really be thinking about spending a little bit more money on those things that perhaps were seen as secondary and not even paid attention to before. So, and also as agents, we've got to make more of it in the advertisements and things like that, so that it stands out, and that's what we're doing. So
I agree with Deb. I would add on to that the fact of what Wi-Fi you're getting. That broadband, it's just like that is so important, and to point that out that this has great service there. And also where we've got 3-bedroom house, it's now advertising it office space. So it's just getting over the differences that people have actually needed over the last 3 months. What's become important.
So that's incredible. So instead of nice view, it's got nice Wi-Fi. Really nice Wi-Fi.
Forget the
it works.
It's important. Right, I think that we're probably running out of time. As in, we don't want to crack on. Is there anything anyone wants to add before we close down?
No, just Really appreciate everybody's time. Thanks, guys.
You know what? I think it's been a really good discussion, and I'm
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on, chatting with us.
Yeah.
And keep doing what you're doing. And I think if there are any landlords or vendors out there, then the agents that we are dealing with on this page are people who really care and really do an amazing job. And I think that that would be a very good place to start looking if you're looking for an agent. So thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a blast.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you later.